Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Crystal News Weekly. I am your host, J.Bandicoot, and this is the beginning of a podcast type thing that I've kind of been wanting to do for a little bit. I've been noticing that there's too much news dropping that I can possibly cover without being a full-time YouTuber. I still work 40 hours a week at my primary job, which is not this. So I figured, how can I kind of talk about all this news that has been dropping? And that is in the form of a podcast, I feel. Now, today I'm alone, but I want to make it clear that this show has an open invitation to anyone who would like to discuss this topic or these topics with me. Everything gaming, everything entertainment, everything that kind of just piques our interest. So if you are interested in just sitting down and talking with me about things that have been going on in the entertainment or gaming or geek culture world that week, go ahead and shoot me a message or an email. All of my information are on my YouTube channel. They're on my Twitter. You can contact me through any of those outlets. I'll also be reaching out to some trusted individuals that I would like to have on the show just to kind of pick their brains and see what they think about what's going on in the world. So this is going to be a little more relaxed than my usual videos. I don't want to really make any points. I just want to kind of hang out and talk about these things as they happen. So I'm going to try to keep these more not opinionated, but kind of going along with what's going on and dropping what I think about things here and there. I don't want to stray too far to that end of the spectrum where I'm just trying to bash somebody for, what's going on or create unnecessary adding fuel to the fire kind of thing. So with that out of the way, I don't expect any of that's going to happen because it's video games, but you never know. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the first topic. And the first topic, of course, as relic of this channel, the Crash Bandicoot 4 trailer dropped this week. I made a video about this. I made two, actually. And I am so excited for this. It's basically taken the entire gaming community by storm, even before the official trailer was released. Even when we were still dealing with leaks, Crash 4 was trending on Twitter, and that is a paramount testament to the Crash 4 fanbase, and it's so good to see. I mean, I've said it a million times before, but we've waited 12 years for this, and it's kind of all paying off at this point. Everyone is just so excited for a new outing. Now, not everyone is 100% pleased with this, as we saw in the trailer and from gameplay leaks of images in-game and gameplay footage that we've seen. It's a very different art style than what we're used to. We're not really used to, not low poly, but low detailed kind of imagery and this kind of art style. Now, with the Insane trilogy, and even with the original trilogy, there was a lot of focus on detail. What Naughty Dog did with their trilogy, they wanted to fit as much stuff onto the PS1 as humanly possible, and they did a great job with it. And with the Insane trilogy, they kind of mimicked that. They brought everything to life with full bloom, with all these contrasting colors, with this level of detail that it was absolutely astounding to see. But the important thing to remember is that that was a remaster which wanted to be faithful to the original games. And that's the route that they wanted to take, that level of detail, improving what Naughty Dog had built upon. And that's why the remakes looked the way that they did. And that was a fantastic way to do it. It gave us 4K, that whole slogan. And it was absolutely beautiful. But in my opinion, this art style is a completely different kind of beautiful. You can't really compare the two. So this art style has kind of divided fans a little bit, saying that this remake doesn't have the love and the passion. I shouldn't say remake, it's not a remake. This new game doesn't have the love and the passion that the original games did, or the remasters did, And I don't think that's quite fair to say. These guys, Toys for Bob, have been working on this game for 2 years. It really does look like they've done their due diligence. They've advised from some original Crash creators. They've advised from guys who worked on the Insane trilogy. They've done their homework, and I don't think it's fair to write this art style off just yet. I personally am in love with the art style, and I think some people might be nitpicking, especially with the Cortex design, because I don't really see a difference with Cortex aside from the shape of his head and maybe the color of his hair. But by and large, that model has stayed the same, and I've seen people basically lambasting the game because Cortex's head isn't shaped like a nail, and to me, that's not really fair. But personally, this art style I feel fits Crash, and I'm not saying that opinions aren't valid, but I really hope that the fans that are lambasting this game give it a chance. Because if you look from the gameplay footage, the environments and everything in the level just looks so beautiful, smooth, and absolutely gorgeous, especially from what we've seen in the ice levels. I just love the lighting and the reflections and just the beautiful nature of those levels, and it really feels like this world is much more alive than what we've been used to seeing in Crash games. I think the attention to the environments was vital in this game, and it almost gives it a Looney Tunes-esque sort of feel, and that's exactly what Naughty Dog was shooting for way back when. They didn't quite get the nail on the head because of the power of the PS1, but it's all coming to fruition here, and I personally can't wait for it. It's definitely an exciting time to be a Crash Bandicoot fan, and it's an exciting time for gaming as a whole, as we see these childhood classics come back with new games, and are just kind of blown away. So more news of that to come, both outside everywhere in major news outlets and on my own channel. I'm planning on covering Crash 4 in detail with the news that we get. Of course, I mentioned I've got a 40-hour-a-week work schedule, so I'm not able to devote that time that I would like, but I'm going to do as much as I can to give my opinions on the pieces as we get more information. So we'll see where that goes, and for now, we'll leave that right there. The next topic that I want to cover is The Last of Us 2. Now, this game released last week, and ever since its release, it has been dividing fans. I mean, ever since the leaks dropped, it's been dividing fans. And fortunately, the game's success hasn't been detracted all that much from the leaks. And that's really nice to see. It's really nice to see that a bad apple didn't spoil the bunch in that regard, and that people who actually wanted to experience the game wasn't ruined for them. So that I'm happy about. But there has been much criticism of the story under The Last of Us 2, so much so that the game has been review bombed on multiple review outlets, which I'm not a big fan of review bombing anyway. I don't feel like it's an effective way to air your grievance. But all of this coming from the story. And I have a very strong opinion on this in one way. And I'm just going to preface this by saying that all opinions are valid, but this is mine. Uh, I don't feel that the story is something that you're entitled to. I don't feel like the company that is making the game is entitled to give you a story that you think is perfect. I don't think it's entitled to give you a story that you love. I think the only thing that it's entitled to is to tell the story that it wants to tell. Naughty Dog wanted to tell a story of retribution while keeping a human aspect of a character. I'm not going to go into spoilers. I haven't played it, but I know exactly what happens. They wanted to keep a humanitarian aspect intact, and that is the aspect of the story that I don't think people are gripping. I think they are thinking the story is bad because a character that they grew attached to didn't receive the treatment that they thought they should have, and I think that people found the ending unsatisfying because of all of these emotions that were portrayed in the game, and everything was ramping up in the game, and then at the end, you don't get the conclusion that you want. you get the humanitarian conclusion. And it's all about storytelling. Storytelling can happen in a million different avenues. Storytelling can be told a million different ways. And by and large, there are a few tropes that are commonly used everywhere. And because of these common tropes, I feel people were expecting this game to go in a direction that it just didn't go. Um, that's my piece. That's kind of my take as to why people are so frustrated, but I don't think it warrants review bombing. I feel that if someone enjoyed the game and if someone liked the game, they are entitled to their opinion as much as a person who didn't like the game, because you're allowed to not like the story. You're allowed to have a bad taste in your mouth with the game because of the story, but you're also allowed to love the story. If you can kind of piece together the story for yourself and you understand what's happening and you like it, you like that kind of, oh, that didn't go the way I expected it to. I like that they took that extra mile and tried to do something different. Then you're entitled to like that. If you think that, oh, I don't like this game because I wasn't able to get the closure that I needed, that's fine too. But it's when you begin to lambast others for their opinion and to actively prevent the game from being accepted to a wider audience through review bombing is when things start to get a little muddy, because you're kind of shooting your own message in the foot, because nobody wants to make a game for an entitled audience. Nobody wants to go through hell themselves to try to make their audience happy, and then there's no guarantee that they're going to make their audience happy anyway. I think Naughty Dog did the right thing in making the story that they wanted to make. They've already gone on record as to say, people are going to hate the ending, but they didn't back out at that point. They didn't say, oh, we need to appeal to the lowest common denominator and we need to make this story to where everyone's going to be happy. It takes so much integrity, especially in this era, to stick to your guns and tell the story that you want to tell. Mainly because of this sort of backlash. If you don't cater and pander to the widest audience possible, you end up getting shot down for telling an original story. And I think that's where the entirety of media, storytelling, and everything of that nature, video games, TV, entertainment, what have you, is suffering, because everything seems to be heading to a lowest common denominator for advertisers or ratings or what have you, or buys, sales, anything, any figure that you can measure. Industries want to see the highest numbers possible. And for Naughty Dog to know that this game was going to divide their audience and they still stuck with it anyway, that deserves respect and that deserves admiration in its own right, even if the game wasn't up to your personal satisfaction. However, that's basically where the criticism for this game stops. The gameplay has been universally praised for both being coherent and in a darker look at violence and the effects on real life situations. This is something that we've never really seen in video games. I mean, sure, Grand Theft Auto, you could go around and shoot hookers and drive cars and run people over, but there was always that sense that it was a video game, that your consequences had no repercussions, or your actions had no consequences, I should say. That's a better term for it. But in The Last of Us 2, it's this disturbing step into reality and this disturbing portrayal of what this would look like in real life. These people that you're killing aren't just virtual anymore. They have such personality depth that it's almost jarring. There are scenes in the game where when you're going through levels trying to kill everyone in the area and you take someone out and their friend notices that they're missing, they will call them by their first name and begin to panic and begin to get worried about them. And you can see this emotion portrayed. And it's just this four-dimensional area where it's like, wow, I just took a life that impacted somebody else. Whether it be virtual or not, you can see what this would look like in real life. And the level of violence as well is just so jarring. but it's something that I feel has been lacking in the video game industry, the step into realism, because the the media at large has been targeting video gaming for the last 20 years for being responsible for such massacres and atrocities as the Columbine massacre. Doom was blamed for that, and that was because of the arcadey nature and the separation of killing something and being able to step away from it unscathed and not kind of feeling those repercussions. After you play this game, it affects you. It affects you mentally, and for some people, it fucks you up because we've never seen anything like this, and this was necessary to kind of reset ourselves into this mindset that, man, killing has effects, you know? No matter what human life they are, it matters to somebody. You know, whoever you're killing in this game, it was somebody's son, brother, father, or sister, daughter, mother. They had an effect on somebody's life, and this is plain to see in The Last of Us 2. That's almost a common trope. So I am very proud of Naughty Dog for stepping this far into the realm of realism, into a realm we've really never seen before. And it definitely, I don't care how you feel about the game, but this is definitely a landmark trope and a landmark achievement for gaming as a whole, to just kind of step into this realm and understand that our actions do have consequences. That's a thing that exists. Um, so that's about it for the gameplay. Doubling back to the story for a second, I should have reordered these things, but this is kind of how ridiculous it's gotten. There have been petitions made on change.org to change the game's story. And now I mentioned a little bit about entitlement a little earlier on, but this is kind of the epitome of entitlement. I mean, like I said earlier, the studio isn't entitled, or isn't, made to give you the game that you 100% want. And, you pick up the game, you play the game, it's a good game, you have fun with the gameplay, but the story, you're like, okay, the story could have been better in my opinion, but someone else could have liked the story as much as you hated it. You have no right to take that away from them. I just don't understand why people always seem to want, me, instead of thinking, oh, someone else this might not be my cup of tea, but it is someone else's cup of tea, and I can respect that. My opinion isn't the only one that matters, that sort of thing. So that just kind of blows my mind a little bit. And there's even a petition to stop this petition. So petitions are everywhere, and I feel like they do nothing unless you're actively taking steps to maybe phone Naughty Dog and be like, yo, what were you guys thinking? I just want to get your input, because your opinion isn't the only one that matters. That's kind of my whole take on this whole situation. But the review bombs for The Last of Us 2 have been going on for weeks. Unfortunately, the user score of the game has fallen below 3 on most sites. Everywhere you can find it below 4 out of 10, of course. And then critically, the game shines because, and I'm not going to go to the defense of many critics, but I tend to side more on the critical side of these kinds of reviews because I've taken a 4-year filmmaking course, and in that time I studied storytelling to its maximum, and kind of picking apart movies has taught me how to pick apart everything else, to where it be TV shows or video games or anything in entertainment really. And I usually go in with a critical eye and just look at things and how they function together, and how they are. And I can definitely see that the storytelling was something original and the storytelling was made to be this way. And I can appreciate that for what it is. And the critics here seem to agree with me. Now, there are times where the critics are just completely out of left field and are like, what the hell are you thinking, right? It's sometimes nonsense. But in this case, I do have to side with the critics, and where I'm coming from is that the storytelling was done in a way that Naughty Dog wanted to tell. It's a different story, and it's the final message of a world gone wrong that you want to keep your humanity. That's all I'm going to say about it. But there's been a lot of hell being rained down on Naughty Dog and The Last of Us 2 in the last couple of weeks. I hope it slows down, but at this point, the damage is pretty much done anyway. So let's step into our next bit of news here. And our next bit of news is Mixer closing its doors with literally no notice to its streamers. The talent that was on Mixer and collecting paychecks from Mixer got notified via tweet by Mixer, as did everyone else. You know, people who were getting their paychecks from Mixer were, you know, alerted at the same time as someone who doesn't even know what Mixer is. You know, that's kind of the biggest slap in the face that you could ever receive. And so for the streamers that are going to Mixer, or that have been going to Mixer, they have now found themselves out of a job, which is incredibly scary. And number one, I want to extend my deepest condolences to those individuals. And so from my perspective, when everyone was trying to make the jump to Mixer, I had a bad feeling about it, just because it was under just because it was under a jurisdiction where a pretense where it almost didn't feel like it was made to stray away from Twitch. It was made for money, and I kind of saw that coming a mile away when Ninja left Twitch and was paid millions of dollars to go to Mixer. And I'm thinking, this is not something that I want to be a part of. You know, if someone else wants to go over here, that's fine. Good luck to them. But I didn't want to go. And in my decision, I'm glad. But for everyone else who migrated to Mixer, I am deeply, deeply sorry. I hope you can migrate back to Twitch relatively easily. I hope if you go to YouTube, I hope wherever you go, your audience follows you. And I'm sure if you're a dedicated streamer, and people at this point, everyone knows that Mixer's going down. So I'm thinking everyone who gives a shit about you are gonna follow you regardless, because people don't follow streamers for the content. They follow streamers for the streamer, and especially people who are donating and subscribing. They want to support you. So I hope I'm not trying to create false hope, but I hope, my hope is that these transitions happen relatively easily. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm not one of these people that are having to transition. But this just has seen this mass creator exodus. There are so many people who don't know what they're gonna do. They don't want to go to Twitch because Twitch is a bunch of assholes. They don't want to go to YouTube because YouTube's algorithms are funky, and sometimes streaming on there is difficult. And they definitely don't want to go to Facebook Live because that platform is just absolutely useless. So I can definitely see their dilemma, and I really hope that this works out for every single one of them, because nobody deserves to have their income and their livelihood swept out from under them. That's just an incredibly dick move. And the biggest dick move of it all is that Ninja is still getting paid his millions of dollars. His contract is still being fulfilled. So, you know, you take care of him, but you can't take care of the thousands of others that you left unemployed. Are you serious? It's, man, I just don't. I'm getting a little bit too opinionated, but I will say this. Mixer is a piece of shit company, and I've said this for a while, that their management style, their intentional blocking and lessening of opportunities to several specific creators in favor of guys like Ninja is just absolutely disgusting to me. And I just don't understand it. I just don't understand why these people, why these platforms always tend to screw over the people who are making it possible for their business to run. Twitch does have this problem as well, and that's kind of a subject that's attached to this one. Was Twitch Blackout Wednesday. There was last Wednesday, people encouraged streamers to not stream on that day because of Twitch being called out for misconduct, and Twitch basically encouraging an environment where bullying can take place and harassment can take place extremely easily. And I've had this happen on my stream on multiple occasions. I've been streaming for about a decade on and off, so I've seen some shit. I've been on multiple platforms, and Twitch, and I can't really say Mixer because I've never streamed on Mixer, but the streams that I stepped in Mixer were kind of the same way here and there. There's just so much toxicity, and it's so easy to do. If you try to ban somebody, they can make a new account and come back in your chat. You try to get them IP banned, but that takes a week because Twitch loves to sit on their ass and not have a support team dedicated to their streamers. It just blows my mind that these kinds of platforms don't take care of us the way that we should be. YouTube is almost better than both of these, and it sucks because YouTube isn't even designed for streaming. It's designed for content in general. Twitch is almost exclusively streaming, so you would think they would have some kind of safeguards in place to make this stuff not happen, but it's still happening, and there needs to be almost a revolution, but that can't happen because Twitch knows that we're expendable. Twitch knows that for every streamer that stops streaming, there's a young kid who wants to start streaming, and then they'll start streaming and gain a following and get Twitch money. It's this vicious cycle of Twitch knowing that nothing we can do can really bring them down unless we all stop using their platform, or we all start calling to action, or something needs to change. I'm not sure how to go about that, but something definitely needs to change. Streamers and content creators deal with so much shit. They're employed on their own. They have to do their own taxes. They have to deal with customer support on the regular that doesn't give a shit about them. They deserve so much better, and it's just a damn shame that these kinds of companies can't throw us a bone every now and then. So I hope that these issues do get resolved with Twitch. I hope that every content creator on Mixer can find a safe and easy transition and continue to make their living as they were doing it. Because bottom line, if you're a streamer, you love it. In some capacity, you like what you do. Especially these people who have been trying to make it work on Mixer. They've been trying to get away from the Twitch toxicity, and it just came back to bite them in the ass. And it's shitty. It's a real shitty situation all around. I wish it wasn't happening, and I wish I could do something, but I'm in no position to help out, unfortunately. The best that we can do is, if you have a streamer that you watched on Mixer, if you were a fan of someone who is having to transition over, make sure that you know where they're going, and make sure you follow them and continue to support them wherever they go. That's the biggest thing that you can do to help them, because that would make their income sustainable, and that would make them able to sustain some kind of fan base over channels. And I understand that not 100% of their fan base is going to come with them, because you have followers who haven't seen you in months, or there are differences in the partner or affiliate programs on both. So say you're a partner on Mixer and you go over to Twitch, and they won't give you partner because their requirements are different. That's a hurdle in itself too. If you're used to getting subscribers on Mixer and that monthly passive income, and then you're not able to get it on Twitch, that's a massive blow to you. So then you have to go through external means, through PayPal, set all that up. The best that we can do as watchers of content creators is to just make it as easy as we can for them, and to follow them wherever they go, because they're dealing with a lot right now, and all we need to do is support them. That's the bottom line. That's the takeaway. If you're a fan of a streamer, period, I don't care where they are, and you see them streaming today, tomorrow, next time they stream, tell them how much you appreciate them. Tell them how much they mean to you, and tell them that they're fantastic, because they don't hear it enough, and they need to be told that on the daily, because they give us entertainment for free. I don't care if you take donations. I don't care if you take subscribers. I don't care if people donate to you for PayPal. Every single streamer that has ever streamed has at one point, and for most of their career, streamed extremely exclusively for free. and they don't have to do that. They don't have to take the time out of their day. They don't have to keep doing this to entertain us. So the next time your favorite streamer streams, drop them a line, tell them how much you appreciate them, how much you love them, and that you're there for them. That's the best thing that we can do. So from the more depressing news from Mixer closing its doors, we hop over to news for the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster. Some gameplay reveals have been released, and the gameplay looks oh so smooth. I am so excited for this remaster. It really seems like a golden age for remasters, especially beloved IPs like the Crash franchise, the Spyro franchise, and now we have the Tony Hawk remasters, and it's just looking at it, you get vibes and worries from Tony Hawk 5, but it doesn't look like this is going to be the case here. It looks like obviously not a one-to-one recreation, but it looks like the gameplay is smooth, it looks like skating is fun, it looks like it's controllable, and just from the continued gameplay here that we saw, this short little snippet has less glitches and less, physics fuck-ups than the entirety of Tony Hawk 5. So that's a good sign. We didn't really see any fuck-ups like we did in Tony Hawk 5. Of course, this is, from the studio themselves. For all we know, they could have recorded that 100 times to get that right, but from what it looks like, it's looking smooth, it's looking satisfying, it's looking like a skateboarding game, and that's all we want out of this. We want a faithful recreation, both aesthetic-wise and gameplay-wise, and it's looking like we're getting that in spades. Also, another neat addition that has been implemented into the game is that modern skaters are being added to the remakes. Skaters like Nigel Houston, Riley Hawk, skaters like that, new age skaters are going to be making appearances, which I thought was an amazing touch. Because you really can't bring skating back in this era without appealing to the modern skating demographic. These games came out 20 years ago, and so if you're trying to re-release it with skaters like Tony Hawk and Bob Burnquist and Andrew Reynolds, skaters like that, sure, they have the legacy, of course, but some people might be like, who the hell is that? Or, oh, he's legendary. He's an old fossil kind of guy, that sort of thing. And it would almost seem like an old person game, if that makes sense. No disrespect to those skaters. Those are skateboarding legends that I absolutely adore. But for this remaster to work, I think we needed more modern skaters like this. And this was definitely a good call, by Vicarious Visions to bring these skaters in with the old ones. A nice mix of old and new, kind of contrasting that sort of thing. I couldn't be more excited. I'm excited to follow this news as it comes, and I'm excited to just learn more about the game, and I'm especially excited to get my hands on it, because that is the true test. You don't know how a game is going to control or feel until you get that controller in your hand. And I've been playing a lot of American Wasteland if you've been following my channel, so I'm expecting a little bit akin to that, but more refined and sharper, just like an upgrade or a remaster should be. So that's the news there. That was kind of a short little segment, but just something that I wanted to plug in news-wise, something that is important in this game's development, and something that we should be expecting great things from. So I'm glad to see that implemented into the game. From one remaster to another, we are met with the SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated release, and this release was met with mixed reviews. There are nostalgic people who absolutely are loving this game because they loved the original Battle to Bikini Bottom. They are loving how the game is played. They love just the aesthetics, the lighting, the new animations, the expressions, and I have to agree. The game looks absolutely beautiful in places, and the game looks like it's very smooth. I haven't had the chance to pick it up yet because I was going to buy it physical and they were sold out. So if that kind of speaks to the amount of hype this game had for it, that kind of speaks for itself. But the reason it's been met with mixed reviews is because there are a few glitches and bugs here and there that kind of take away from the immersion, coupled with an overblown contrast and lighting. I've seen this in a couple of gameplay videos, and this was actually one of my concerns too, was that the game looks so bright. And that's a great thing in some places, but when you have a main character like SpongeBob who is bright neon yellow, it's kind of, it hurts the eyes a little bit. It's definitely blown to hell in terms of contrast. And while that's not entirely a bad thing, it would have been well to tone it down just a little bit, because if I have a feeling if you play this game for an extended period of time, your eyes are going to start hurting after a while. But that's basically it, other than the glitches and the various things found in the game. The departure from the detail necessarily in like the goo physics and the water physics, not detail so much, but it's the different art style, kind of the same thing as Crash Bandicoot, where it strayed away from the original aesthetic a little bit, and fans are kind of scratching their heads as to why. The shadows in particular are an aspect of the game that has received much criticism, as the game that dropped in 2003, the original, had actual dynamic shadows under the characters, and in this remake, it's just the disc shadow, which was a little bit of a head scratcher. Like, this is supposed to be a remaster and an upgrade. Why are the shadows downgraded? You know what I mean? It just seems almost inconsistent. There are some aspects of the game's aesthetic and art style that absolutely flourish, like the grass in Jellyfish Fields. That's a level of detail that is very welcome, and it brings the world to life. But things like the goo and the shadows are such a departure and arguably a downgrade from kind of the old thing. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit. When I was talking about Crash and the silly Looney Tunes-esque art style shouldn't be considered a downgrade, it should be considered a departure. And while it seems hypocritical for me to say this, but that Crash game is a different Crash game. I'm going to double back to the Insane trilogy and what I was talking about there. They wanted to enhance every aspect of the original Crash trilogy, so they upgraded what they needed to. They enhanced everything that game had to offer. And that's a remake. Crash 4 is a new game. Coming back to SpongeBob, this is a remaster / remake. So what they needed to do was take every aspect of the game and enhance it. It doesn't seem like that was done. At least for, I'd say, 10% of the game. It seemed almost untouched. Or downgraded in some capacity. And that's the main issue that some people are having with the game, is that, we expected every aspect of this game to be better. If you're going to market it as a better version of the original, which is what a remaster is, that has to happen. Every aspect of the game has to be better. And this could have been attributed to a rushed development cycle. I don't know why it would have been rushed, but it could have been. It could have been due to lack of time or resources. I'm not sure. I really don't know what the case was here. Or if it was just artistic choice. I don't know. But by and large, fans are very pleased with the game. The game has been met... I already said it's been met with mixed reviews, but fans of the original game and fans of the show are pleased with the game, and it definitely looks fun. It was intriguing enough for me to want to get my hands on it, and I'm still kind of peeved that I wasn't, but I will be picking it up soon, and I'll be able to experience it for myself. Just the beauty of it all, just seeing the world expanded in ways that we didn't see the original. I mean, there are levels in this game that you can see in the distance. You're going to go to that level later, but it's in the distance, and it just adds to the life of the world. And it's nice. It's very nice to see a beloved cult classic be remastered with very obvious passion put into it. There are just avenues where things could have been improved, and the fans definitely noticed that and were very vocal about it. And that's kind of the only way we're going to see change, is if we're vocal about it and we say, hey, thank you for the game. This is great, but here are our disappointments, instead of review bombing it and saying, "Oh, this game's trash. The shadows are trash. The shadow, yeah, not dynamic. The shadows are discs. The game's bad. 0 out of 10." That's not how you improve. That's not how you get reception from people who poured their heart and soul into a project. You basically say, "Hey, this game is amazing, but here's what you could have done better." And then they're like, "Yeah, you know what? Disc shadows might not have been the best move. We're sorry about that." Or maybe, fix that in a patch. Maybe add dynamic shadows in a patch. I don't know. But I'm just very glad to see that this game turned out to be every bit of the rehydrated remaster we were expecting. If not, the shadows are a little wonky, but, you take what you can get, you small victories, and you can't let those little small nitpicks ruin the experience for you. I'm very happy to see the praise this game has been getting. So, moving on to a little bit more negative news, kind of going in with this whole review bombing thing. IGN has been under fire as of late, as well as some other gaming review sites. But IGN specifically, their management has been accused of bullying, harassment, and sexism, which really sucks to see. There have been multiple people that have come out and told their stories of themselves being held back by their manager and outright saying, "You're never going to be a reporter, you're never going to amount to anything in this business," and just being absolutely degraded. And to see this happen in the gaming industry, it's just heartbreaking. And these were writers for reviews. These were people who were formulating their own opinions on games and trying to keep the integrity of gaming journalism and journalism as a whole intact. But it's these managers that only care about their bottom line that end up ruining it for everybody. These managers are the reasons why companies can't stay relevant in this industry very long. Look at Machinima. They were on top of their game until their management just completely sucked ass. You can look at nearly every outlet and nearly every reason why Machinima failed, and it was always because of the management. The management had no idea how to, one, run their business, number two, treat their employees, and number three, actually know what they're doing. And that seems like what is going on over at IGN. A lot of things that IGN has been doing lately has not made a lot of sense to me, and sometimes it just seems like they're kind of inept. I've been reading some of their more recent reviews, and in particular, the ones for Super Monkey Ball, Banana Blitz HD, and the Spongebob remaster kind of caught my eye, and I'm thinking, this doesn't make sense. They're focusing more on, the bad than the good. And that's kind of a departure into the writer territory. But these writers, mind you, are being influenced by the management, and they're being belittled by the management for the stuff that they're originally writing. So it's almost like you can't have your own integrity in this industry anymore. You can't formulate your own opinion, which doubles back to the whole widening the demographic, appealing to the widest audience. It feels like this business is almost ruining the industry, and that's kind of what happens to every industry that gets involved with business over the actual content, is that you are focusing on how to make the most money at the sacrifice of your integrity and your content. And it's really shitty to see IGN suffering from this, because IGN is one of the titans of the gaming industry. They always have been. They've in a realm that changes constantly, IGN has been one of the only constants. And we may need to have a talk with IGN. We may need to basically say, "Hey dude, this isn't okay. You need to stop, or, we're going to make sure you go down." Because at the end of the day, we have the power to make sure they go down. If we don't read their articles, if we don't share their stories, if we don't support them whatsoever, they've got no choice but to listen to us. And that sucks too, because then you have the writers who are trying their best and actually trying to make a living that are being caught in this crossfire too. And they don't deserve that. They're just trying to make a living doing what they like. It's a really tricky situation, and I hope we can make some kind of difference with them soon, because this kind of behavior is unacceptable in 2020. You know what I mean? Uh, I just don't understand why it's so hard to treat your fellow human beings like you would want to be treated, and just stop thinking about yourself for a minute and put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Like, you wouldn't want to be degraded for your work. You wouldn't want to be told that you're never going to amount to anything, when then you can jump. So what happened to that person who had released that story? They jumped to GameSpot and then was promoted to like I believe it wasn't editor in chief, but it was chief editor or something. So they did make something of themselves, and that manager at IGN was full of shit. So it's really shitty to see this toxicity, especially in our industry, and especially coming from a titan of the industry such as IGN. But basically, what this means is the integrity of the entirety of gaming review outlets are at risk here, because I had an exchange on Twitter, because we're seeing this almost unprecedented amount of shit talking from these gaming review outlets that are almost always focusing on the negatives so much and calling games trash. And you gotta wonder why. I mean, where is the integrity here? Where is the honesty? Where is the actual methodology to play the game that you're reviewing? I know one review in particular that got me heated was this person cannot be qualified to play video games. Like, they cannot be a video gamer, because their review of Spongebob, the Rehydrated Remaster, was, I believe it was a 3 out of 10. And one of their biggest issues was there's a puzzle in the game that you use a bowling bubble kind of ability, where you have to stand on a button and then bowl your bubble into a chamber, which activates a lever or whatever. And if you step off the button, the chamber for the bubble gets cut off. So you have to stay on the button, and then you have to bowl the bubble into the chamber to open the lever. And this person was complaining because every time you would do the bowling animation, SpongeBob would walk forward, right? He would walk off of the button, and then the bowling ball would get cut off from the chamber that it needed to go into to advance. And he kept doing the same thing over and over again, and he mentions how these puzzles are just impossible to perform, and they're impossibly difficult, and that they can't be done, and all that stuff, when all he needed to do was scoot back 3 feet. He literally had to get off of the button, from behind it, execute the animation, SpongeBob would be on the button, and then it would be all good. The ball would go in to the chamber, and you can advance. Who How can you review video games without knowing that basic concept, without having that basic brain functionality? You know what I mean? It's almost, I mean, I get common sense is relative, and I get people have brain farts. But if you're going to shit that hard on something, you better have something to back it up, and that is not backing it up. That is just basic nonsense. So we have people like this, these absolutely inept personalities, and that's all they are at this point. They're not reviewers, they're personalities that are reviewing our games. And so here's another thing, when did difficulty become a bad thing? Ever since the Insane trilogy dropped, it seems like, oh, this is the Dark Souls of platformers, it's a shit game. When did difficulty become bad? I remember when difficulty used to make a game good, because you had to actually press through to get through to an area, and then you got rewarded because you were like, oh my god, I finally got through it. When did that become a bad thing? And you're calling this game difficult when it's designed for 9-year-olds. Maybe you shouldn't be reviewing video games. Maybe you should just go like color on coloring sheets for a living. I don't fucking know. Just color within the lines. That's, oh my god, I'm getting heated. It's because it's frustrating. Because we have these people that we're trying to trust with our money, that are just completely inept and giving us almost false information. And it's just sad. This is why I miss Total Biscuit. You know what I mean? He was always honest. He was always, where he needed to be in his reviews. Wherever he stood, he justified his reasoning. and he let us know what our dollar was worth. And it's journalists like that that are just missing in this era. And my God, I miss Total Biscuit. But anyway, fuck IGN. Let's get into something more positive with the Minecraft 1.16 Nether update that got released this week, and fans are going absolutely insane, and for good reason. It is a huge update. It completely revamps the Nether. It gave us new building blocks, in the form of blackstone and basalt that are darker in tone, which are going to give us a lot of different variety for darker builds, more kind of uh, what kind of Lord of the Rings style esque. I'm not sure quite how to put that, fantasy, maybe, but it's just a cool palette to be introduced to us with the rest of the kind of building blocks that we have in the game. People that are far more creative than myself are going to go nuts with this stuff. And it also adds a a material called netherite, which is the material that is stronger than diamonds, and that has effectively broken the Minecraft meta. So for a decade, diamonds has been the end-all, be-all to Minecraft, essentially. It's been what it's your end game, you get diamond tools, you enchant them, and then you're godlike. That's completely changed now. After a decade of staying the same, netherite has now effectively replaced diamonds as the strongest material in the game, and it is super rare. And it's actually really cool to see people that are in this mad dash for netherite, because they're creating all of these really unique techniques that use the game mechanics, and they exploit it to get netherite easily. For instance, beds explode in the nether. You can't sleep in them in the nether. So beds explode, and they explode higher than TNT. They have a higher blast radius of TNT. Coupled with the fact that netherrack is one of the easiest materials to break in the game, and the ancient debris is basically the hardest, or one of the hardest materials in the game, you can literally spam beds down, and as long as you got blast resistance and you're like the maximum amount of blocks away, you sleep on the bed, it explodes. It creates this huge fiery crater that gives you a good chance of finding hidden debris or ancient debris that you can then smelt down into netherite. And it's really cool to see this, this kind of intuition, because the Minecraft community has always been creative. It's always been able to exploit the mechanics of the game in such a way that it always pushes the boundaries of what's possible. And while this isn't, the biggest innovation in the world, like creating a Game Boy out of redstone, it's definitely really cool to see this community run with this update the way that they have. And it's so welcome, because one of the biggest things that people have always wanted in Minecraft was a Nether revamp. They wanted the ability for the Nether to be enhanced, and they wanted a new Nether. And this is what we've got. We've got different biomes, we've got different materials, we've got a new bastion, remnant, which is basically a akin to another fortress. It's basically a new structure, and it just all looks so cool. And I personally haven't even gone to the new Nether yet, but I need to. I need to experience this firsthand. But it's definitely a welcome addition, and it's great to see the continued love and support for this game from both the community and Mojang. Because this game has been going on 10 years strong, and it's still stronger than it's ever been. And it's so magical to see a game in this era that is just constantly evolving like Minecraft. And it's always comforting to know that no matter what's going on in the world, Minecraft is always a constant, and I really hope it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It doesn't seem like it. It definitely seems like there's a bunch of stuff that is keen for updating. But we're gonna have to wait and see what those return. I'm hopeful for a cave update. That's what I want. Same old caves for about a decade. I'm done with them. So jumping from a universally acclaimed story to a more rather confusing one. So Nintendo released uh, a preview for the Vault Boy skin. So this is basically one of the Mii costumes that you can put on, but it's a skin of Vault Boy from Fallout. What? When? I believe there's only been one Fallout game on a Nintendo console, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. But I literally can't think of any. You know, why are they just kind of trying to bring every icon in video gaming here now? Is that what's happening? If so, why the fuck did Vault Boy get represented before Crash? You know what I mean? Like, what is going on here? And that kind of brings me to my next point, is that they also released a poll of the most requested characters in Smash. They had a laundry list of characters. It was a long, long, long list. And the only character that received more than 1,000 votes was Crash fucking Bandicoot. He was at number 1. And with good reason. Crash should be in Smash. I said that a year ago. I'm saying it now. Why the fuck is it taking so long? We need Crash and Smash. So I've never been a huge fan of Smash in general, just because I'm shit at the game and it's kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But if Crash Bandicoot were to be confirmed for Smash, I would buy the fuck out of it. I would buy it that day, because I want to beat the shit out of Mario using Crash. That's all I want in my life. So does this mean we're going to see Crash in Smash? Does this confirm him? No, it doesn't. But it's definitely very interesting to see his rankings in the community and how much the community wants him to be a part of Smash Bros. Personally, I think it's justified. I think having Mario, Sonic, Link, Pac-Man, Banjo, the Duck Hunt dog, and Crash Bandicoot in the same game, that would break. You know, that's just a fantasy. You know, it's always been a fantasy. And Mega Man, you know, all these video game icons in one place, it's so many gamers' wet dreams. And if that were to be able to come to fruition, I think a lot of us would be able to die happy, because we were able to interact with these characters that we never thought we'd be able to. You know, between Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony, all of them. And it would just be this magical moment for fans, for me especially, to see Crash get that kind of love. So that's where that stands. And finally, our last bit of news, Pokemon. Let's talk about Pokemon for a second. There's a lot of Pokemon news. So first off, the Pokemon Isle of Armor DLC has dropped to many acclaim. It seems that this is a pretty big story, bigger than we've seen from a lot of Pokemon games. I haven't gotten my hands on it yet. I didn't get the Season Pass, unfortunately, but a lot of people seem to be pleased with it, not only for the story, but for the amount of Pokemon that are returning from previous generations. There's a good list of Pokemon that were excluded from the core release of the game that are being added as DLC, which is always great to see. So by and large, it looks like the Isle of Armor DLC has been met with positive acclaim, which is great. I need to get my hands on it, but something that wasn't met with very good acclaim at all was Pokemon Unite. And what that is it's a Pokemon MOBA. So it really looks like Nintendo is going senile between this and the Vault Boy skin. It's almost like they're lost. You know, it seems like they don't know what they're doing anymore. And we've seen this from Nintendo. They're basically just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. We saw this with the Wii U. We saw this with the Virtual Boy. You know, it's just, what is going on, man? I mean, you've got these masterpieces like the Isle of Armor DLC, and it... So needless to say, Pokemon Unite is fucking weird, and people are not enjoying it at all. It's basically a worse League of Legends, if that's even possible. I'm not a fan of MOBAs in the slightest, so I haven't even given this game a second glance. But from what I've seen and from the gameplay that I've seen and the reactions from the community, this is not a good time. This is not a good time at all. And so, what is going on with Pokemon? I mean, Pokemon Snap is also some news, which is amazing. There's a new Pokemon Snap coming out. But with all of this, taking into account everything that we've seen from Pokemon in the last couple of years, it really feels like they're trying to stretch everything so far. I mean, Pokemon is the biggest entertainment franchise in history, full stop. So, why are you trying to expand it more? Are you trying to be the Apple of entertainment, of video games? Is that what's happening? Are you trying to monopolize video gaming under the Pokemon banner? Can you imagine what that would look like? It's just so weird to see them. I mean, I have to give them this. At least they're trying something new. They're not giving us the same old repetitive, song and dance, routine that seems to be coming from a lot of other, franchises like EA. They give us the same old sports games every single year. Or Activision, they give us the same old Call of Duty every year. At least they're not doing that. But they're just bringing in so much nonsense that it's like, what is happening? I really don't know what to make of it. I really don't. And at this point, I really don't know what to expect from Nintendo anymore. It just kind of seems like they've lost their minds. I hope they regain them, and I hope they stop being so lost, and I hope we can start seeing more potential great projects down the line. But for right now, it just kind of seems like they're in purgatory, and we just kind of have to deal with it. So that was the news for this week. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you've made it this far, again, I am looking for guests to appear on this program because talking to myself for an hour is a little tiring, and I'm trying to be as fluid as I can, but with only one opinion coming out, I can only do so much. But regardless, thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked what you saw here, be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button down below. It would really mean the world to me, and it really helps the channel out a ton. But yeah, that's it for me today. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace, my dudes and me dudettes.